Here we are, back again for another episode of Music is the Glue. Your hosts, Tony, Smitty.
Smitty, hey.
So, biggest holiday of the week. Let's just get this out of the way. How was your 420? Oh, no, wait a minute. That's probably, I guess, Easter a few days ago was maybe the bigger holiday. Did you have a nice Easter?
I had a nice Easter. It was good. Got to spend some time. Went to Ohio to visit with the family. Got to spend some time there.
Nice.
Had a little Easter egg hunt with my grandson, so that was fun.
That's awesome. Obviously my kids are grown. I don't have grandkids, so we don't do a lot. But it's funny because my wife, who is a little younger than me, but still, a full-on adult, she still expects her parents to send her an Easter basket every year.
Oh, seriously?
Little spoiled, and she gets pretty huffy when it doesn't happen. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before they didn't send one, and I ran to the store at last minute to build her an Easter basket because she was distraught that they did not send her an Easter basket. So she is young at heart. We don't do an Easter egg hunt, but she wants the basket. She wants the.
You know what? That'd be kind of fun though, Tony. You're not too old to get out there and hide some eggs for your wife.
If she wants it, I will do whatever she wants.
That's right.
That guy.
Good answer.
Learned a lot from the first failed marriage. I'm to make sure I do it right this time.
Right.
Well, we're thrilled to be back for episode 6, and we've had a lot of fun. We've gotten to talk about so many cool things, and I think some of my favorite comments that we're getting, like on YouTube and what have you. And please keep the comments coming. Make sure you keep writing reviews, good or bad. We want to hear both on Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen to the show. But I'm loving when people are like, "Oh man, you talked about that was so cool when you talked about this record or that record." And and a few episodes back, we got some comments about somebody was like, "Man, there were so many different kinds of music in this one episode," and that is exactly what we're trying to achieve. We want to make sure that we're wide open to all different styles. That's what we both love. So Thank you. Keep those things coming. We have our deep dive coming up on the show in just a few minutes. And
Wait, Tony. There's something different here, and you haven't even mentioned it.
What?
I don't have a hat on, Tony.
Oh, that's right. Showing some skin. It's sexy.
Showing the baldy.
Look at you. It looks good, though. That's the thing. Your head looks so good. See, I would never be able to do that.
You could do it. It might look funny, but
I'll bet. Just a hint. Knobby, freckles. I don't even want to see what's under this. It's going to be terrible when it happens.
From the looks of it, you still got a long way to go. I think you're good.
I hope so.
Good.
I want to make sure I keep getting those ugly comments on the internet about how stupid my hair is. So
if it does go, you can always go to Turkey. I hear that's what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go to Turkey, spend a few $1,000s.
All right.
You're like a brand new man.
It's interesting. That's of all places in the world, I would not have expected that to be the
Turkey.
The hot spot for getting hair.
Exactly. One thing about us Americans, we're going to find a bargain. We got to go to Turkey. We'll go to Turkey.
Whatever it takes. Never mind how much the flight's going to cost to get there.
Right.
Well, you look good. Is it a conscious choice to not do the hat today?
You know what? To be honest, the room I'm in, I'm hot. So I was like, I can't wear this hat.
Me too. I'm not wearing pants. Same kind of thing. So.
And you know what? Funny thing is, I wore this shirt to do a video on my Instagram, and I got a little flack for wearing the Cincinnati Reds hat with this shirt. So that might have crept in my mind a little bit, but
okay, got some pressure there.
Yeah.
All right.
But the main reason is I was hot.
Yeah, well, that's a good enough reason for me.
Okay, let's get to the show.
Okay, here we go. So, in just a few minutes, we got a deep dive coming, and it is a soundtrack to a movie. Now, the movie itself is an iconic 80s movie. Although, in my opinion, it's really stupid. My wife loves it, and we watch it sometimes. But for my money, this is a movie that you watch because the soundtrack is so good. It's not Purple Rain.
That movie was terrible.
Yeah, it's not good. But it's a soundtrack to a huge 80s movie. And this week, back in the day, it started a huge run at #1. And the soundtrack itself has 6 top 40 hits on it.
That's crazy.
And some of these are like not just top 40, but like big time hits. So we're going to kind of dive into it, how the soundtrack came to be, and how falling off a stage during a concert kind of led to the title track. It's a good story.
Something I don't know about. You'll be telling me something.
A good story.
Okay.
So that's in just a bit. But now we're going to get into Tony and Smitty's A to Z. We are going through our record collections from A to Z each week or each show. We bring out something from the next letter of the alphabet, and we are up to E today. Now, do you have something fun in mind, Smitty?
You know what, Tony? Will you go first? How about that?
I would love to go first.
Okay.
I'm hoping that this one will maybe throw a few people for a loop. My wife, and I give her credit on almost every episode for introducing me to more music like this. This is somebody that she actually knows somebody that she knew when she grew up in Vallejo, California.
Oh, she really knows him.
Like, she knows him, yeah.
Okay.
Like, she would see him at places, and she was around when he was selling his tapes out of the back of cars, and, so she knew him when. And she
Wait,
has
I
been
think I know who I think I know who you're gonna say.
she's been dying for me to do a musical minute on this guy, and I haven't had a chance to do it, so I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to feature him a little deeper on our show. So my E is Mr. E40. And
Yep, I
we have
knew it.
multiple albums from him. Of course, Federal is his debut, like full-length studio album. And when I tell people that I'm a fan of his and that, new fan, I mean, admittedly, I'm no expert on this guy, but Earl, I've heard so much about through my wife, Katie, and she loves him, and she says he's one of the sweetest guys in the world. And so I think it's great when you can be a kind of a superstar like he is and still find ways to be a good person,
Right.
because so many people don't. So this album came out in 1992, and if you're a fan of hip-hop, you probably already know all about it. Spin Magazine called this a historic self-released debut that invented a hustle, a sound, and a new rap language.
That it did.
Yeah, when she first played some of his stuff for me, I was like, God, how is he doing that? Because he spits rhymes so fast. It's unbelievable.
You know what? I gotta say this. I'm trying to picture you sitting around listening to E40.
Hard to do,
I
right?
don't know if I can really picture it, yeah.
It's like anything else. And when we put it on, I mean, it's kind of like we play cards a lot and we hang out in the house and listen to records, and we pick records and we put it on, and it's just on. It's not like, I'm not sitting there with my headphones on, just,
Right.
that's not my world, but I do enjoy it, and it's super fun. And Federal, I wouldn't say is my favorite album by him, but it's obviously great and certainly changed how a lot of people were going to rap based on what he was doing. But, Earl Stevens, born in Vallejo, just like my lovely wife, grew up with his siblings. He was raised by a divorced mom. She worked 3 jobs to support her family, so she was a great mom, did a lot for them. And he became interested in hip-hop after hearing a song that we talked about on an episode a few episodes back, Rapper's Delight.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm sure there's so many guys in rap and hip-hop who were inspired by that. And so in 4th grade, he started learning to play instruments. He played snare drum and bass drum, and then he played baseball in high school, started recording music with his siblings, and then he would sell these things out of the back of his car. And Katie remembers, like, there was some bridge. She used to say, we'd go under the bridge, and they would party under the bridge, whichever one that is in Vallejo. And Earl would be down there hustling his tapes and selling stuff. And that really never stopped, because even now, as a huge successful rapper, he still is such a businessman. He's got burritos, turf burritos.
Yeah. He's got a liquor too, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got liquor. We haven't tried the liquor, but she special ordered burritos from California and had them delivered here. So
E40 burritos, huh?
yeah, they were good.
What are they called? I'm just curious.
I think they're called turf burritos.
Turf burritos, okay.
Turf burritos, and then there's different flavors, and they were great. I mean, they came across the country, and they were, it's a frozen burrito. It's not as good as going to a restaurant, but she said they were just like when they would go to the store in Vallejo and grab some out of the Quickie Mart, whatever. These are what they tasted like. So he wanted to do something that tasted like home. So, and of course he's done other things too. But so he went to high school, graduated from high school in 1985, and then after that he enrolled at Grambling State University, and his cousin was there, and they went to school for about a year, and then he started getting a following in the Bay Area, and things started really kind of going for him on the West Coast. Quietly, the rest of the country hadn't really heard of him at that point, but then he started collaborating with some other like big rappers, and as he was on their records and people were going, who is this guy?
Right.
Then it really started to grow. And, again, for me, hip hop not being my first music that I listen to usually, it's just something that I'm learning. I had not heard of him. And so, when Katie was talking about him, I was like, I don't know who that is. And, she was very upset that I had never heard of E40. And then she started playing me some of his stuff, and I was like, okay, this guy's awesome. I love it. So that's my E40 Federal.
That's a good E.
Yeah, I thought so. And I was hoping it's a little unexpected. Some people were like, what the?
Oh, yeah. That was super unexpected.
Right. Excited to see your E. Smitty, what do you got today?
Okay. So my E is, this group actually pretty much ran the 70s. I don't know if you got
I've already got it.
Any clue? Yeah, they ran the 70s. I am holding here, in mind the camera, Earth, Wind, and Fire's album, Gratitude, released in 1975. It was actually released in 1975 following That's the Way of the World, which was, I think, was also released in 1975. So that's two, like, bangers.
That's the Way of the World was the soundtrack to that movie, right? Wasn't that the one that they did for the movie?
That I don't know.
Does it have Shining Star on it?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's a movie soundtrack. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I didn't know that. So, like I said, it was released in November of 1975. It was actually their first #1 album on the Billboard 200 chart.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I was doing a little research about it. So, of course, this album it showcases their live. They were known for those high energy live performances. Yeah, like I said, they ran the 70s. It was away from Maurice White, who was the band leader, founder, to show gratitude to the fans. That's what it said. He wanted to show gratitude to the fans, so that's why it's called Gratitude. Do you have many memories of this album, Tony?
I don't. I don't think I have that album. I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. I have maybe 3 or 4 albums by them, but that's not one of them. What are the hit me with some of the songs that are on there?
Sing the Song. Do you know that song?
Yes.
Can't Hide Love. Sing a Song reached #5 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Yeah, I remember that one.
If you've heard it, yeah. If you know, yeah. Can't Hide Love was another one. It was kind of like a ballad, but it was a fan favorite. I remember. That's still like every song I'm naming is still like super, super. It's just great music. Never gets old. And Gratitude, it's kind of like a spiritual, soulful track that reflects on like love and peace and thankfulness. It was certified triple platinum, which is that's great. He sold over 3 million copies. It remains one of the greatest live albums in R&B music history.
So it's a live album.
Yes, I think it's a mix. I think it was a mix of live and some studio records, but I think it was considered mostly live.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to grab that. I don't have that one. I'll have to definitely check that out.
Yeah.
I love those guys.
Gratitude.
Obviously, their music is incredible, but I love the positivity that they always put out in the world. And like you look at Maurice's face, his face is always that smile, and he just was such a positive person.
Oh, yeah.
Until I did a feature on him on Instagram on my Music Minute and learned a lot about him and like his beginnings and his jazz beginnings.
Right.
Ramsey Lewis trio and everything. I was like, oh, I had no idea. And then reading more about him and how he came to be and how he put Earth, Wind, and Fire together. What an amazing man.
That's a great story. Great story. But yes. So my E is Earth, Wind, and Fire, and the album Gratitude.
Dig in. I'm gonna get that album and I'm gonna put it on and listen to it. That's my self-administered homework.
So Shining Star was on this album. Didn't you say that, or you thought it was?
Well, I think Shining Star is on That's the Way of the World. But it may be on this one too. I don't know.
Stand by. So it's on this one too. I don't know if they did a live performance of it on this one or what,
Maybe.
But it is on this one as well. Yep. Gratitude.
Excellent. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. So there's our E's. Next episode, obviously, F. You know how the alphabet works. So it brings us to the deep dive. And we're, again, super excited about this one. An 80s iconic movie. And we're going to talk a little bit about the movie itself. I mean, we're going to focus on the soundtrack as well. But this week, back in the day, in the 80s, it started a run at #1 that was pretty incredible. And as we mentioned earlier, 6 top 40 hits. And I have a really cool copy because I happen to have a Japanese import that I still have the Obi strip on it. I don't know if you can.
Dang, okay.
But Footloose.
I don't have it. Footloose, yeah, Footloose.
This is one of those soundtracks that, I mean, it's a great soundtrack. It's not one that I like searched out. I got to get the Footloose soundtrack. But there's a record shop in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I used to live, called Wild Honey Records. And it's a great shop. He actually has 2 locations. This is not a paid commercial. I like the place. So I'm just telling you, if you're ever in Knoxville, check out Wild Honey. Lost and Found is also great. But he used to do, he would do theme weekends. When he would save up, he would get these big collections he would buy and he would save up, and then he would put out a thing. Hey, this Saturday we're doing, it's all 80s soundtracks. And he would have just bin after bin after bin, and it was all 80s soundtracks. And so I was like, oh, I got to go in and see what he's got. And he had this copy of Footloose. And I was like, all right, it's got the Obi strip on it. It's pretty cool. And it wasn't super expensive. So I grabbed it.
I do not have that album.
It
is a great soundtrack. I do remember the soundtrack, a great soundtrack, but I don't have it.
It's awesome. But like I said, it's not one that I often put on. I'm not like, oh, it'll be sounding good today. It's the Footloose soundtrack. It's just, it's got great songs on it, but it's not something that I think about putting on. So let's talk a little bit. Let's get the story of Footloose. And I don't know if you knew this or not. I didn't know it until fairly recently. And even though the movie's 40-something years old, it's loosely based on a true story.
I had no idea until you told me that. Yeah, I had no clue.
There's a town in Oklahoma called Elmore City, and they had actually banned dancing back in 1898, I think. And the reason they did that is it was an attempt to decrease the amount of heavy drinking because they thought drinking and dancing went together.
News alert. People are going to drink anyway, people. They don't need music.
I was just saying,
Come on,
it
man.
could be a very quiet room and I'm still going to have drinks.
Right.
But anyway, that's why they did it. And then I guess an advocate of the dancing ban was a reverend from a nearby town, F.R. Johnson. And he said, no good has ever come from a dance. If you have a dance, somebody will crash it and they'll be looking for only two things, women and booze. When boys and girls hold each other, they get sexually aroused. You can believe what you want, but one thing leads to another.
Now, that part might be true, the two people holding each other. But
I mean, he's not wrong.
yeah.
He can't ban dancing, but he's not wrong.
I got to remember, this was the 1800s, so.
Exactly, yeah.
Dancing to that devil music.
So because of that ban on dancing, that town of Elmore City, they never held a prom. So the kids, like, fast forward like many, many years, they never got to have a prom. February 1980. So almost 100 years later, the junior class at Elmore City's high school made national news. They requested permission to hold a junior prom, and it was granted. And the request to overturn the ban to hold the prom was met with a crazy, this is 1980, a 2-2 decision from the school board.
2-2.
And the school board president, Raymond Lee, broke the tie with the words, "Let 'em dance."
So two of the people really thought it was such a big deal to let people dance. Really?
I mean, 1982 jackasses still wanted to hold up a ban on dancing. Get out of here, man. What are you doing? 1980. I can see
dancing in my town.
Like, can you picture them? I'm picturing them in my mind. And at least one of them I'm picturing as a woman with really tall gray hair and really sour, tight lips. And you can picture it. You can picture
I think today that she'd probably be called a Karen.
Oh,
Yeah.
At least.
She'd definitely be a Karen.
So they first approached Ron Howard to direct this movie.
Ron Howard, really?
Yeah.
Wow, he would have been, seems like he would have been really young back
Well,
then.
he was young, and in fact, he turned down the opportunity to direct this movie and chose to do a movie called Splash instead, which I think is a classic 80s movie.
Now, that was a better movie. That definitely was a better movie.
Without
question. Sucked.
Tom Hanks, John Candy, Eugene Levy. I mean, Splash is awesome. I just showed my oldest daughter that movie for the first time a few months ago. Yeah, she'd never seen it, and she loved it.
That was a good one.
So Daryl Hannah, of course, she's fantastic. And then as far as the star of the movie, Kevin Bacon famously is the star of Footloose, but he wasn't the first choice. Tom Cruise and Rob Lowe were both slated to play that lead role. I didn't know that. Producers really...
I could see Rob Lowe. I don't know about Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, I feel like he could have probably pulled it off, but it would have been really forced. Like, I feel like it would have been like everything would have been felt really fake and not real.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't... I think he's a very good actor now. Still think he's nuts, but I think he's a very good actor now. He wasn't a very good actor back then, in my opinion.
No,
he was just...
I don't think so either.
Kind of a standard teen. So they really liked him, though. They loved his underwear dance scene in Risky Business, and they thought, oh, okay, we should do that. But he was unavailable because he was filming a movie called All the Right Moves. So couldn't get him.
That was the wrestling movie? All the Right Moves? Or...
I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid. I don't remember.
I might be thinking of something else. I could have made that up in my head. I don't know.
I'm sure someone will be happy to correct us in the comments.
Yes, if you know, put it in the comments, people, please.
Yeah. We're not going to do our research. We're going to count on you to help us out.
Right.
We're not doing that. So Rob Lowe auditioned 3 times. Like, they really liked him. He came back and did it a few more times. They said he had the dancing ability and he had that, kind of neutral teen look that the director wanted, but then he got hurt. So he had an injury and they couldn't cast him. Now, do you remember the movie Blue Lagoon? Brooke Shields?
Brooke Shields, yeah, she was really young.
Yeah, she's a kid, and Christopher Adkins was her co-star in that movie. He claims that he was actually cast as Ren, but then lost the role.
Really?
I don't know if that's true or not, but he says it is. So Kevin Bacon had been offered the main role for Stephen King's movie Christine, the haunted car. Remember that movie?
Oh, absolutely. I think
so he'd been, yeah. And then
I saw that a few months back. It was on.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I love that movie. I'm a Stephen King fan. I think I saw that movie in the theater like 3 times when it came out.
Never saw it in a theater. Never.
So yeah. Anyway, he was offered the role of that, and then he was also asked to do a screen test for Footloose, and he said he took a gamble. He said, I'm going to do the screen test, and it went down in history. There you go. Kevin Bacon gets the role, and it kind of broke him as a big-time star in Hollywood. So, a little history of the movie there for you.
I vaguely remember the movie, but
well, again,
back in the 80s, I was young, so, it didn't take much to impress me as far as movies, but I remember I still thought that movie sucked. It's
not great.
This movie's terrible.
I think nowadays it still does well in the nostalgia factor. I think people still like how the memories tied to being a kid and when that movie came out, and so maybe that's part of it. because it's
The
really
soundtrack did make the movie, that made it bearable. I think even back then, I thought the premise was so stupid. I'm like, this is dumb. Like, there's really a town that doesn't allow dancing.
if we had known then that it was based on a true story a little bit, maybe we would have been more accepting of the movie.
Yeah, you would think that somebody like me who grew up in the church heavy, parents super, religious,
Yeah.
like I always refer to devil music. Now you would think I would understand, like, no, that's probably happened. But even back then, I thought it was stupid. I was like, nah, it can't be that bad. But yeah,
Soundtrack. This thing is a monster. You got Footloose, of course. The soundtrack's big thing. That was a huge hit. Then Kenny also, there's another song in there that gets played sometimes on 80s radio. I'm Free, Heaven Helps the Man. That's one of those songs you don't recognize the title probably, but if you heard it, I bet you'd go, oh, I've heard that song before.
Okay.
You got Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler.
Well, yeah, definitely remember that one.
And that was, I didn't know this, that was co-written by a guy named Jim Steinman, who is known as being Meatloaf's guy. He wrote 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad, I'll Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That. He wrote Total Eclipse of the Heart for Bonnie Tyler.
Yeah.
Making Love Out of Nothing at All for Air Supply. The guy was a huge songwriter, so he co-wrote that one. Sammy Hagar, Girl Gets Around. I honestly don't remember that song very well. I mean, I like Sammy Hagar, but Never by an Australian band called Moving Pictures. Again,
Don't remember it.
Let's Hear It for the Boy, Denise Williams.
Yeah, that was my jam back then.
Yes.
That was my jam, Denise Williams. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's one of those songs, like, even today, if I'm on the 80s station on Sirius XM, the first few beats of that song start, and I smile.
Oh, yeah. It just does that to you. Yeah.
It's so good. When they were making the soundtrack, I guess she initially recorded it, and then, I can't remember the guy's name, and maybe I've got it written down here somewhere. I think Dean Pitchford, maybe? He's like a big Broadway guy, but he's also the one who co-wrote the movie, and he is heavily involved in this soundtrack. I think he co-wrote Footloose with Kenny. He listened back to it and was like, this doesn't have the sound I want. So he had her actually fly cross-country back to either New York or L.A., whichever place she was, to re-record the vocals like in the middle of the night to get it the way he wrote it. Yeah, and she did it with a smile on her face, and of course the song was huge. You got Somebody's Eyes, Carla Bonoff. I don't remember that one.
No.
This is another one I love, Shalimar, Dancing in the Sheets.
I remember that one. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love Shalimar.
How about that song? Yeah.
And then the big, romantic song was Mike Reno from Loverboy and Ann Wilson from Heart, Almost Paradise.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Remember that?
gosh, I forgot that soundtrack had a lot of songs.
And I didn't know this. That song, Almost Paradise, was co-written by Eric Carmen, who's the same guy who sang Hungry Eyes from the Dirty Dancing soundtrack.
Yeah.
And so he had a bunch of other hits. He was with the Raspberries back in the 70s, and so he went kind of nuts later in life. But so it's 9 million copies this thing sold in the USA alone. Footloose and Let's Hear It for the Boy, both were number ones. And then they got nominations, 1985 Oscar nominations for Best Music, Original Score. Neither one of them won. I can't remember what they lost out to. But then you got 9 songs on the original soundtrack, 6 of them top 40 hits. And then this week, back in 1984, the soundtrack started a 10-week stay at number 1 on the album charts. Crazy.
Let's talk about Kenny Loggins. He was like the go-to guy for soundtracks back in the day.
He was. And
yeah, he was like the go-to guy.
After he did Caddyshack, that kind of got people going, ooh, this Kenny Loggins guy. Because before that, he and Loggins and Messina, they had that kind of AM gold, really kind of soft sound. And
right.
Then the 70s happened, and he started working with Michael McDonald. And This Is It, Whenever I Call You Friend.
Classics.
Yeah, I mean, just great stuff. Yeah, it's funny you bring up him being kind of the soundtrack guy, because I'm going to get a lot of stuff. I'm going to leave out a lot of facts here because I don't have notes in front of me. I'm doing this from memory of doing this story before. So he had been approached to do a song for a different soundtrack. And I think he said, he couldn't do it. His schedule wouldn't allow it. And Dean pitched, I hope I'm getting his name right. Dean came to him and said, hey, I want you to work on a song for me for this new movie I'm doing. And he's like, I don't have time. I got a tour going. I just can't, yada, yada, yada. So cut to a show. He's doing a show in Utah. And when he's coming out onto the stage, the lights hadn't come up yet. And I guess they didn't tape it with the way they were supposed to. And he fell off the stage and broke several ribs. So the crowd doesn't know any of this is going on. They're down, they're getting him out of the pit or whatever. And they have to cancel the show and rush him to the hospital, and show's over. Well, because of this, tour comes to a halt, and he's no longer too busy to work. So Dean gets in touch with him again and says, hey, now that you have some time on your hands, have these broken ribs, would you consider working with me on this movie and this soundtrack? And Kenny was like, yeah, I might as well. Now I've got some time, so let's do it. So
nothing else to do, huh?
They ended up getting together. They were both actually, I guess, knocked out of their mind on pain pills, because Kenny was still had their injuries, and I guess Dean had like a really serious case of strep throat, and he was really sick. But they got together at his house, and in a fog of pain pills, they wrote Footloose.
Okay.
And the rest was kind of history with that song.
I wonder if Footloose was Kenny Loggins' biggest hit. You think so? You think that was probably his biggest one?
It's either that or Danger Zone.
Yeah, that was from Top Gun, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, another soundtrack song.
Yeah.
I would guess that one of those two has to be his biggest one.
Okay.
Although, I mean, this soundtrack is bigger than the Top Gun soundtrack.
Yeah.
I could look it up.
Yeah, I was just curious.
And through the mystery or the beauty of editing, this will just take 1 second when this episode actually airs. It's Footloose.
Footloose. Okay.
Footloose is his only number one.
Thanks to our research department, we just got that info. Thank you.
I can't believe Danger Zone didn't go to number one.
Oh, really?
How did Danger Zone not go to?
Remember they played that song a lot. Oh my God.
It stopped at number two.
Okay.
Yeah. So Footloose, it was a 3-week number one, and then his second biggest hit was Danger Zone, which was a number two. And then you get some of his 70s songs. I'm All Right was a number 7. He had some top 10s. Meet Me Halfway, that was another soundtrack song. That one came from Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone.
That's the arm wrestling movie.
But the guy drinks motor oil.
Another dumb movie.
I was going to say super realistic.
I liked it when I was younger. I thought it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Sly Stallone. I like a lot of his dumb movies, but I could not get behind Over the Top. That title is super fitting.
Over the Top. Yeah.
Forget about it. So I think that's actually a tremendous segue, what we just did, to what we want to talk about next.
Yeah.
This is something we got into. Smitty and I got into a conversation just weeks ago about songs we loved and whatever, and somehow we got on the subject of songs that we thought had been big number one hits, and then when we started looking them up, we were like, oh my God, I can't believe that wasn't a number one. Like, I mean, just now, Danger Zone wasn't on my list. I had no idea that song wasn't the number one.
Definitely would have thought that was number one.
Judging by how much it gets played on the radio, even still today, of course, that's radio. Hey, let's take something people like and drive it in the ground until they hate it.
Into the ground.
So we're going to talk about songs that are super popular, but that might shock you. They never made it to number one.
It's funny because I was watching TV and I heard this song in a movie, and I was like, you know what? Let me look this song up, because I knew we were going to be doing this segment. It came out in 1976, so of course I don't remember that. I was 3 or 4. It's a really long song. It was a 6-minute song, which did affect the airplay that it did get, because back then radio stations didn't play songs that long very often.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the standard for a pop song was about 3 minutes back then.
Like the Beach Boys' "Good Vibrations," one of the biggest songs of all time.
Yeah.
He had to beg the record label to release it. It was 3.5 minutes, and they're like, "Oh, a 3.5 minute song? Oh, what are you talking about?" Which is insane to me.
Yeah. So I mean, back then it had some tough competition. So April 1976. I don't know if you remember this song, Tony. "Disco Lady" by Johnny Taylor. So that song was number one when the song I'm talking about was out. Okay. Johnny Taylor, "Disco Lady."
I think if I heard that, I might know it. The title sounds familiar.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
So the song I'm talking about peaked at number 9 on the charts, and that song is "Bohemian Rhapsody" by Queen. I just knew that song was probably a number one song. I don't know if it's because, in 1990, well, you know what?
They re-released it.
They re-released it in 92, actually, after the success of Wayne's World, that movie.
Right, yeah.
And it went to number 1 in 1992.
Yeah, it needed that movie to kind of power it along, because, originally, you're right, it's super long, didn't do that well, but it got played on the radio so much, and I think maybe it could have been broken by now, but for a while it held a record for like the most played song, like on UK radio. It was crazy.
Okay.
But rock songs are tricky, because, you think about songs that you hear on rock radio, and we should qualify this. When we say it's a song that never reached number one, we're talking about the main chart, the Billboard Hot 100.
Right.
They've added charts. There's R&B chart. There's the mainstream rock chart, alternative. They've added so many charts over the years. So a song, but these are songs that didn't make number one on the Billboard Hot 100, which is the one that you want to get on, because that's the one that really makes the money.
Oh, yeah. I think right around the time this was released in 76, I think the radio probably, I'm just assuming, they probably, in that year, probably leaned more towards like disco and soft rock, maybe some funk back then.
I would certainly think so.
You're a few years older than me, not a lot, but.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, and at that time, AM stations were the ones that were mostly playing like rock.
Okay.
And they weren't, they just weren't there were some big powerful stations that you could hear all over the place, but most AM stations didn't have that kind of reach. So they weren't the mainstream kind of radio stations. Right. So, and really you nailed it on the head with the length of the song. Radio stations didn't want to play a 6-minute song.
I'll be honest. I don't think I ever heard that song until Wayne's World came out. Seriously. I don't think I ever heard that song. Of course, I heard We Will Rock You and stuff like that from Queen. I heard some of the music, but I don't remember hearing Bohemian Rhapsody.
Well, because I think you'd have to be listening to a classic rock radio station to hear it.
Yeah, which I wasn't.
Exactly. And that's why, and Katie gets mad at me because she'll say, I can't believe you don't know this song. And I'm like, it's a great song. But at that time, I have to remind her, at that time, I wasn't listening to R&B radio. It had, in the small town I grew up in, I don't even know if we had an R&B station.
I was going to say, you probably didn't have it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had to really do my research and go out on my own and find records and CDs and cassettes that had that kind of music. I would hear it maybe in a movie, or I'd hear it, a friend would make a mixtape that had some stuff. That's the first time I heard Planet Rock by African Bambaataa. It was a buddy of mine had put it on a cassette, and I don't even know where he got it. And I mean, I wore that thing out, but I wasn't going to hear that on the radio in a tiny town in Alabama.
Your buddy shoplifted it. I don't, he probably didn't, but just in my head, it just sounds like a better story. This tape, it was Planet Rock.
Yeah. I like it. I lived a small life of crime as a child, so yeah, I'll go with that. I did some stupid stuff. This one blew my mind because the song is iconic and it's another 80s jam. You won't turn on an 80s station where this doesn't get played within the first probably 20 minutes that you're listening.
Yeah.
Cyndi Lauper, Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
What?
Didn't make it to number one.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
They played that song so much, I hated it.
Yeah, I mean, it gets played. It's not my favorite of hers either, but it gets played so much. It's iconic. It put her on the map. That video that they put out with the wrestler in it, I mean.
Yeah. Lou Albano. I was a huge wrestling fan.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So I want to say it stalled out at number 2. I think it made it all the way up to number 2, but it never made number 1.
So you got to tell me. I know you know who was number 1 at the time.
I don't actually.
Research team.
Let's get on that.
Yeah. Can you look that up for us? Thanks.
Thank you, research team. We now have this information to bring you. The song that it sat behind for 2 weeks was the first number 1 song by another band, and to my knowledge, their only number 1 song. She couldn't get past Jump by Van Halen.
Oh, okay. I can understand that. Okay.
Jump was a monster song, and she just didn't. They got it to number 2, and I'll give you a little inside information for those who don't know how it works, especially back in the day. When songs are going up
exactly. Radio guy.
Yes, when their songs are going up the chart like that, their record label is hustling like crazy to continue to move the song. And the way they do that is by calling radio stations and saying, "Hey,
a little payola."
Well, at this time there probably was still a little bit of that going on, but take out the illegal stuff and just the way they do it, and the way they still kind of do it today. You call and you just hustle. You say, "Hey, I need you to move this into what they heavy rotation. You got it in medium rotation. I need it in heavy rotation."
Okay.
Because they call it spins. The more spins it gets, the more it gets played, the more it's going to count towards its weight on the chart, which makes it go up the chart.
Right. Okay.
And some songs you're able to get it up there and make it happen. Some songs naturally just are huge because they're loved. But there's always somebody behind the scenes at a record label on the phone in different regions working it, calling everybody. That's their job every day, is to call people on their list and say, "Hey, how we doing on this record? Can we take it up on extra spins next week? And what can we do to make this go?" And they would offer them like big promotions. "Hey, if you put this in heavy next week, we'll give you a flyaway where you can send listeners to New York to see Cyndi Lauper in concert." There's all kinds of stuff, deals being done to get songs to number 1. So that's just a taste of that.
You know what, Tony? I just thought of an idea for a segment.
Mm-hmm.
With all the years you had in radio, I think we should do a segment and call it Tony's Radio Stories. You just tell us little stories from your years in radio, maybe interview stories or just anything. I think that'd be interesting.
Well, I'm happy to do it. I mean, I've got a million of them, 36 years in the industry, mostly country. So some of the stories are kind of lame, but the good news is when we were in San Diego, we interviewed a ton of Hollywood people too. So I can tell you who was cool, who was a jackass, stuff like that.
You've told me some good stories, and I think everybody want to hear those.
Well, I'm happy to do it. Ready to be blown away by another song?
Yeah.
You may actually let me hear one of yours, because you may have the one I was about to do. You might have on one of yours.
Okay, Tony. So this next song that I'm doing, it blew my mind that it didn't make number 1. One of my favorite songs and one of my favorite albums ever, actually, released in 1979 by one of my favorite artists ever, Marvin Gaye. The song is "What's Going On." Another song that I just assumed went number 1.
How could that not be number 1?
Right. It peaked at number 2. So here's how it went. It peaked at number 2. The song that prevented it from going number 1 was "Just My Imagination" by The Temptations, which is another great song.
I was gonna say, you can't be mad about that.
Can't be mad at that.
Yeah.
But the following week, a song jumped over Marvin. It actually flip-flopped. So this song went to number 1, and Just My Imagination went to number 2, and that song is Joy to the World by Three Dog Night, which I don't know that song, Tony. I don't know.
You don't know that? Oh, come on.
Maybe if I heard it.
Jeremiah was a bullfrog.
Okay.
Boom, boom,
Okay.
boom.
Okay. Now, I always thought the song was called Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog.
I'm sure a lot of people do.
I didn't know.
And I'll tell you this, it's sure not better than What's Going On by Marvin Gaye.
No, come on. Number 2 peaked.
Wow. Look at all the Three Dog Night lovers. Yeah, you're full of crap. Yes,
I mean,
it
I'm
is.
not, no knock to Joy to the World. I mean,
It's a fine song, but it's not better than Marvin Gaye.
No, come on.
Yeah, so the charts can be very frustrating, and you'll get people all the time when you talk about this kind of stuff where you're just like, I don't care what the chart says, this is a better song, and you're 100% right most of the time. I mean, look at Led Zeppelin, a band that really never released singles, but you hear them on the radio all the time. They're a legendary band, but, they don't have any number ones. And it blows people's mind. They're like, how can Stewart not be the number one? Yeah, well, they didn't release singles. Like, they just didn't release singles. They had no interest. I mean, there were a few promotional singles released in the UK, and then they released a couple of singles here, but there's no number ones in their catalog because they had no interest in that. They wanted people to buy their albums. So when you look at it that way, the Billboard Hot 100 can be misleading because you're like, how in the world can a legendary band like Zeppelin not have a number one? Right.
Yeah.
They didn't release any songs to be a single.
When we released full albums, classics, great albums.
You couldn't pick and choose what you wanted to download and listen to. You had to buy the whole thing. Sometimes you got screwed.
Yeah. We sound like bitter old men right now.
Hey, I'm good with today. I mean, believe me, when they made it where you could like go on and just get what you wanted and not have to get the entire album, I threw a party.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great.
I don't think anybody loves it more than we do. As bitter as we may sound, because let me tell you something. You don't know what it's like until you saved up your money because you heard a song on the radio that you loved, and we've talked about this before, and you went down to wherever you bought your music, Tower Records, Record Bar, Warehouse, all the big stores.
Every Tuesday.
And Tuesday, the new stuff came out, and you said, you plopped down for me, it was like usually cassettes. I had a lot of cassettes at that time. So I plopped down my $8 or $9, and I bought my cassette, popped it in, and it was total garbage. There was one good song, and the rest of the album didn't sound anything like that. Yeah. And I was like, I wasted my money on this. So when I could just buy the songs I wanted.
Oh, yeah. Singles were a godsend.
I mean, come on.
Then they came out with the maxi singles that had like 4 different versions.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you bringing back memories now. But back to Marvin Gaye. I can't believe it didn't go to number 1. What's going on? You know what? I'm done. I'm done. This is crazy.
I'm going to not spend a bunch of time. Let me just roll through a few of these songs just so we can blow some minds. Here's some other songs that didn't make it to number 1. It's one of the biggest songs for Hall & Oates. You Make My Dreams Come True didn't go number 1.
Wow, really?
Nothing But a G Thing peaked at number 2. Didn't get to number 1.
Really?
Rocket Man, Elton John. No number 1.
Okay. You are blowing my mind right now.
Like a Rolling Stone, it hit number 1 on the Cashbox, which was the big competitor for Billboard back in the day.
Wait, what song?
Like a Rolling Stone.
Like a Rolling Stone.
Bob Dylan, huge song.
I don't know many. I got to be honest. I don't know much Bob Dylan.
I only know I'm not a huge Bob Dylan fan, although I'll tell you something. If you have not seen the movie that just was nominated for all the awards and stuff, Timothée Chalamet plays Bob Dylan.
I heard he did a great job.
It is fantastic.
I've heard that.
I'm in the Screen Actors Guild, so I got all those movies for free to screen and vote. And I was like, well, I got to watch this movie. I don't care about Bob Dylan, but I'm going to watch it. And by the time it was done, I was like, that's a fantastic movie. I will watch that movie again. And
hey, Tony. Sorry to interrupt. You know, if we make copies of those and bootleg, we can make some money.
Yeah, I can get kicked out of the Screen Actors Guild too.
Okay, disregard.
I mean,
disregard.
If you had called me when I was a kid, when I was accepting African Bambaataa kind of rock, then maybe we'd have something, but I can't.
Yeah, your buddy could have shoplifted some more cassettes and boop. Yeah, that would have been a nice little hustle.
So anyway, I say that to say it kind of opened my mind a little bit more to Dylan. Again, the voice, but he is one of the greatest songwriters of all time. And Like a Rolling Stone is a killer song.
Okay.
Bruce Springsteen and Dylan, these are weird situations because they have both written songs for other people that went to number 1, but they never got there themselves.
Wait.
So Springsteen
never got to number 1?
Blinded by the Light he wrote, and that went to number 1 for Manfred Mann's Earth Band. And then Dancing with the Dark was Springsteen's biggest hit and only made it to number 2.
What about Born in the USA?
No. That album was huge, and I think the album made it to number 1 on the album chart, and it had a bunch of songs on it that were big hits. Glory Days.
Yeah, I just assumed.
I'm on Fire. There's 3 or 4 other ones on there, but yeah, Dancing in the Dark was his biggest hit, made it to number 2. And then Dylan, he wrote Mr. Tambourine Man,
I know that song.
and the Byrds took that to number one.
Okay.
He never got it to number one.
You know what? Yeah, you blew my mind. I just assumed Dylan had to reach, even though I don't know much of his music, I assumed he reached number one at some point. And
You would
Bruce
think so.
Springsteen, that really blows my mind.
I think about the Beatles, and it's hard to imagine them not making number one, but Yellow Submarine was the first designated Beatles single that failed to hit number one on the Hot 100. Now, they're saying it's believed that it didn't get to the top spot because a lot of radio stations had blacklisted their music after the big John Lennon thing where he said they were bigger than Jesus. That made a lot of people very upset.
Yeah, that pissed some people off.
Yeah. So, but then there's also, you could look at it like this. Maybe it's because it's a stupid song. And I love Ringo Starr. I think he's great, but the Ringo songs were not known to be the best Beatles songs.
So I've heard.
Octopus's Garden? Come on, man. Although I do like his version of it, Buck Owens Act Naturally. Anyway.
Buck Owens, hee-haw. That's right.
There you go. Here's one that it's an iconic song. It's a song that has been used hundreds, if not thousands of times for very important things when people are feeling emotional. Never made number one. It only made it to number 3, even though it's one of the most famous songs of the 20th century. And speaking of the Beatles, John Lennon, Imagine.
Really?
Let's see. And then let me pick maybe one more recent song. And I say recent, it's still 30 years old. Don't Speak by No Doubt. Never released as a physical single. So it didn't it wasn't allowed to be on the charts. When they don't release it as a single, then it doesn't get the ability to be on the charts.
See, something else I learned from the radio guy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
I had no idea.
Anyway, and there's a bunch more, but there's just some songs that kind of blew our mind, and it was easy to go down a rabbit hole on those kind of things.
Wow. It's good stuff, Tony.
All right. So let's wrap it. Let's talk about the next episode, which is going to be coming out in a couple of weeks. This is going to be a little different. Deep dive. Initially, it's not going to sound like it's about music. And it's actually about something that is maybe one of the most, tragic days in American history. It happened in my lifetime. I was just a little kid or maybe just a baby when this happened.
And it happened in both of our home states.
It did. And just to give you a little more, not that you're going to get this from this, but in a weird, ironic situation, when I moved to Alabama, when they made a movie about this thing that happened, they filmed a good portion of it at a community college in the little town I lived in, Alabama, because it looked a lot like where this thing happened. And that might be enough for some of you who are Gen X or a little older to know what we're going to be talking about. But it was a dark day in American history. But what you might not know is how much connection there is to bands and music through that tragedy.
Yep.
So we'll be doing a kind of a special deep dive on the next show. And then, of course, we'll also be doing Tony and Smitty's A to Z. We'll be up to the letter F. What will we bring to the table? I think I already know who I've been looking. I like to look ahead, and I change my mind like 6 times before we do the episode.
Yeah, me too.
And then we'll have some other goodies in that episode as well. And then just looking ahead a little farther down the road, we're getting excited. We're going to be having our first guest on the show. And we're really looking forward to that, kind of getting our beaks a little wet with interviews and bringing some people to you who hopefully you'll enjoy. But right now, we're going to ask you what we always ask. Please keep supporting this podcast.
Please. Leave comments. Please leave comments. Rate it. Please. It helps a lot. You just don't know.
And we're going to keep begging them, and that's just how it goes. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe. If you made it this far into this thing, you want to subscribe.
Yeah.
You know what.
Yeah. Even if you don't like it, subscribe.
I've told people that before. Subscribe. You never have to come back again. Yeah.
Not gonna hurt.
No big deal. And then if you're listening, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening, please just make sure you leave a quick review.
Deezer. Shout out to Deezer.
Shout out to Deezer. Big platform. Didn't know. We're just, we're old dudes.
Sorry, Deezer.
If you haven't gone back and watched some of the early episodes, you got to go back and watch to get that. All right. Make sure you also follow our social media pages. We have pages set up on Instagram. Music is the Glue Podcast. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook. We're on X, although that's Twitter to me. It always will be. We need to maybe start a Blue Sky account.
Are we on X?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're on so many things.
We're everywhere.
We don't know where we are.
These are everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. So thanks again for supporting the podcast. Sharing is big for us too. If you can share this with your friends, we have people say, I really like this. I'm not usually into podcasts. Share it around. Don't be shy of us.
Share. Come on.
Okay, we appreciate the help, and we will be very excited to see you next time.
Remember, no matter the genre, no matter the decade, music is the glue that keeps us together, people. It keeps us together. Remember
Stay
that.
tuned. Stay connected.
Stay tuned.
See you next time.